me speak before? One, all right, great. So there's a couple of parts to this talk that I'd like to talk about. Is first maybe give a little bit of my story. Russ told you a little bit about it and how I have had a life-threatening illness. The second part is to basically teach people to determine if something is raw and or healthy or not. There's a lot of foods in the raw food movement that may not be so healthy for us that are sold as raw, and we have this kind of automatic connection. If we see the word raw, we think it's automatically healthy, but that's not always the case. And so I have an interesting story to go along with that. I'm really pragmatic and only usually do things when there's some kind of need, and there's definitely a need when this arose for me to come up with a talk and teach people about this. And I mean, I'll research things and find out if something's really raw or healthy or not, but I don't expect everybody in here to do that, so I came up with a really easy system so that anybody can determine if something's raw and or healthy or not by what I'm going to teach you tonight. The last part that I'll be speaking about tonight is growing your greens, or my journey from taking my front lawn to basically just wiping out my front lawn and putting in all raised bed, edible vegetable garden. So I think, that's, I've been into raw foods for 15 years, and I've been progressing all this time, trying to improve my diet, improve. I go by the Japanese kind of, or actually it came from America, from Deming, kanai, or constant and never-ending improvement. So I always try to improve what I'm doing in my life, and I've improved my diet in raw food so much that I couldn't really improve it anymore without actually improving the quality of the food I ate. And to do that, I pretty much figured out that in order to get the highest quality food, I needed to do it myself, because, there's some great organic farmers out there, especially at the farmers markets, don't get me wrong, and we should support them, but I think, no better place than to grow it in your front yard, and when you're ready to eat it for dinner, go out there and pick it and eat it within 2 or 3 minutes, because there's very minimal nutrient loss, and, you're probably going to care and put a lot more love and attention into those plants than, big farmers that are, hopefully doing it for, more than just money, but, most of the time it's just for money, or big agri-corporations that are selling organic food to us that are just big corporations, and they are in it just for the money and not necessarily for your health. So I want to get by a show of hands to see how much time I want to dedicate to each kind of segment. So please vote for one of these. Either, should I focus a lot of the time on my story? So show of hands, only vote for one. Okay, so I'll minimize that. Or focus on, teaching you about the raw foods and what raw foods are healthy. How many people are primarily interested in that? Okay, and how many people are primarily interested in growing your greens and how to grow greens in your garden? All right. All right, so I see I'll focus a little bit of time on my story, more time on the raw food stuff, and then, a little bit of time at the end for about, growing your own food. How's that? So that's pretty much what I came up with. Can you drink a little bit of water here? So basically, starting off with my story, as Russ had mentioned in the introduction, I got spinal meningitis, which is basically a viral infection after I graduated college. I just remember playing broomball with the guys one night. I was a chapter advisor at my fraternity at the time, and I came home from broomball that night and just got really sick, like flu-like symptoms. So I thought it was a flu, and like any normal American, I went out and got some Theraflu and took that and figured I'd feel better the next day, but I didn't feel better, and even to this date, if I smell Theraflu, I'll probably just throw up, because that stuff's nasty, and I was throwing up, and actually not because of the flu, but because I actually had meningitis. So long story short, I was taken to the hospital, I passed out, was admitted into the hospital, I woke up, I don't know how much later it was, because I just remember waking up in intensive care, and I'm just like hooked up to the IV and all this stuff, and I'm like, what's going on? And the doctor told me, hey, you have spinal meningitis. I said, well, hey, when am I going to get out of here? She's like, well, you might not make it out of here. And that's not a fun thing to hear, at any age, but necessarily, a young guy who just graduated college in his 20s, who had his whole life ahead of him, who had never made the $1 million and all the American dream things, and, had a family or nothing yet. And I was like, oh my God, this is terribly wrong. And, looking back on that now, it's definitely probably the best thing that's happening in my life, because it spurred this totally different path in my life that I've taken and chose to take. And because I am alive today, I had to figure out how to rebuild my immune system so that it wouldn't happen again, because I did get better. And when I was leaving the hospital, the doctors told me that the reason why I got sick was that I had what's called a complement immune deficiency. And to put that in layman's terms, there's no doctors in here, it's basically a chronically weak immune system. And he blamed that on my genes, on defective genes. But as you know, if you've read like Dr. Ornish's information that, dietary influences can play a role in changing your genes, actually. So I think that, when the doctors don't know something, I think they just blame it on your genes because they, don't know, and that's what they can just blame it on. So I knew I needed to do something to build my immune system because he said you won't get a reoccurrence. It's gone. This bout is gone and out of you. But the problem is, people carry around the cold, the flu, or meningitis, and most people don't get affected. So, in your family, your wife or your kids have the flu or a cold, and you don't get sick. That's because your immune system's strong enough to fight it off. And he said people actually carry around meningitis, and people don't get sick with that because their immune systems fight it off. But mine wasn't that strong, and that's why I was affected. And none of the other guys actually at the room ball that the previous, a few evenings ago or whatever when I got sick actually. So just one of the unlucky ones. But that was really no surprise too much because as a child I was born with asthma, allergies, and eczema, and ichthyosis. So those are all immune-related syndromes. So even as a child I had a lot of health challenges. I couldn't run with all the other kids in PE. I'd start to wheeze and have to stop, and I'd have to take theophylline for my asthma, and they give me hydrocortisone creams for my skin, and nothing really ever worked.
From eating dairy products. I was going to mention that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was alerted to many things.
Actually, I went to talk about vegetarians. I don't want to interrupt that, but
I just want to say real quick, if we could hold all the questions to the end, so if you could just take notes, if you do have any questions, I'd be glad to address all the questions at the end.
I'm not questioning, I was pointing that out.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, so nonetheless, so I was sick as a child. I got better, but then after I got out of the hospital, after I almost lost my life, I knew I needed to do something different and change my lifestyle. I mean, I thought I did pretty well at the time. I didn't drink alcohol. I stopped eating red meat. I was a fairly good vegetarian who ate chicken and fish and read my ingredient labels, but it still wasn't good enough, and I still was afflicted and got sick. So I guess life went on, but I knew in the back of my head that I needed to do something. The other thing that happened when I was actually in the hospital and doctors told me that I might not make it out alive was that I had a value shift. Because I thought about, even if I had that $1 million and I could write a check to Mr. Doctor, $1 million, do not cash unless I walk out of here, money would basically do me no good. That wouldn't guarantee that I'd walk out of there. The only thing that could guarantee I'd walk out of there at that point actually was higher powers. So, I think I made a commitment to live in greater service, and that's one of the reasons why I do all the videos and all the education I do, and that's all unpaid. I don't, get paid for any of this stuff that I do. I just do it because I want to share what I've learned, because I'm grateful to be alive today, and I think that's another thing that's really important that we miss in our society is that, to be grateful every day, to live in gratitude about just one thing, pick something out that you're grateful for today. So, and the other thing was my values had shifted. So instead of desiring all this money, we're meant to, or we're almost taught in our society, I really started valuing my health. And my health was my most important wealth. And I mean, that's a common saying, but most people just say it, and that's just it's just a saying. They don't really take it to heart. And so I really started taking it to heart at that point in my life, and really wanted to just do anything I could to build up my health so I wouldn't be put back in that situation again where I'm in the hospital and my doctor's telling me that you might not make it out alive, because it wasn't any fun to be there, and I don't want to be in that situation again, and it's definitely preventable in my opinion in many situations. So let's see. So the next part was I basically learned after I got out of the hospital, I had a value shift. I knew I needed to do something and build my immune system. I had no idea what. I learned about juicing through an infomercial from Kohler, the Juice Man. And in one of his infomercials, he says that, if you juice, you can build your immune system. So that's all I needed to hear. I got on the phone or the juicer. They shipped it to me, and I started juicing, and I felt better. I was doing that for about 6 months. And then I was at a health food store buying my organic produce to juice. And I found a book on the bottom shelf that's called Cleanse and Purify Thyself by Dr. Richard Anderson. So it talked about colon cleansing and cleaning out your colon, and death begins in the colon and all this other stuff. And it said you could build your immune system by doing this. And I mean, I think at that point in my life, I just needed to know things that would build my immune system. I would pretty much just try it to see if it worked. I mean, there's a lot of things out there that everybody may have tried or may not have tried, and some things work and some things don't. and I'm really all about trying new things. I mean, in gardening, you know, I try to grow certain things, and some things work, some things don't work, and I keep growing the things that work, and you know, give up the things that don't work.